Hi everyone. Today we're going to do lesson 15.6, partition of shapes. Let's look at the learning target. I can divide circles and rectangles into halves, thirds, and fourths. And our vocabularies are halves, thirds, and fourths. Let's move on to the problem of the day. How many squares can cover this rectangle? And we're going to look at the number of rows and the number of columns. So we're going to see how many squares are in each row and how many squares are in each column. I'm going to give you a few minutes to do that, and then we're going to do it together. Now we're going to see how many squares it takes to fill out this rectangle. And as you can see, we have some squares already. So we're going to finish the rest of the squares to see how many squares it took to fill out this rectangle. Let's go. So we have one there, another one. We're going to continue, another one. And we're just going to continue until we have it all filled out. Another one, and another one, and then maybe the last one. The last one. Now we're going to see how many are in each row. And we're going to begin. So with the first row, we're going to go across. Remember, the row is across. So there are 1, 2, 3. So we're going to put 3 down. 3 plus, let's see how many more. 1, 2, 3. 3 more. Let's continue. 1, 2, 3. The last row. 1, 2, 3. So we have 3 plus 3 is 6, and 3 more, 9, and 3 more, 12. So we're doing repeated addition. So there are 12 squares. Let's move on now to our columns. So remember, we say the column goes up and down. So let's go. See how many are in each column. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Plus there are, let's count again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Another 4. I think we have one more column, so let's count that. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's find the sum. So we have 4 plus 4 is 8. 8 plus 4 is 12. So if we notice that the same amount that we have in the rows are the same amount in the columns. So there are 12 in all, both rows and column. Let's move on now to the lesson. I can divide circles and rectangles into halves, thirds, and fourths. So as you see here, there is a circle, and it clearly shows that this circle is divided into 2 equal parts. And so it's correctly divided into halves. Let's take a look at the other circle on the right. And it clearly shows that this circle is not divided into equal parts. And so we can say this one is not halves because it's not divided into 2 equal portions. So if you take a good look, you can see clearly which one is divided into 2 equal halves and which one is not. Okay, let's move on to the rest of the lesson. Here again we have, I can divide circles and rectangles into halves, thirds, and fourths. So we're going to take a close look to see if the rectangle on the left is divided equally into three equal parts. So I take a close look and it shows that this one is divided into 3 equal portions. And so this one is divided into thirds. So this one is correctly divided into thirds. And if I take a look at the one on the right, it clearly shows that this one is not divided equally. because you see that the middle part is much bigger than the other two sections. So we can say this one is not divided in equal parts. All right, so if you take a close look, you can exactly see when it's divided equally and when it's not. All right, so let's move on to the next one. Again, we're going to see if this one is equally divided into fourths, right? So we take a look at the one to the left, and it clearly shows that this one is divided into 4 equal parts. So this is correctly divided into fourths. Now let's take a look at the one on the right. As you can see, this one is definitely not divided into equal portions. And so we could say this one is not divided equally into fourths. For this one, just by looking, you can tell that this one is definitely off. So this one is not divided into fourths. All right, let's move on to the next one. I can divide circles and rectangles into halves, thirds, and fourths. And so we're going to take a look here to see which of them should go under the correct place. So the first one clearly shows that the shape is divided into 2 equal portions. And so we know that that's halves. So we're going to bring up the halves right there. Right there, it fits right there. That's 2 equal parts. So those are halves. The second circle is divided into thirds, had 3 equal portions. And so we're going to put the third right there. And the last one is divided into fourths. So we're just going to fill in that with the fourths. So right away we're learning our shapes, the halves, the thirds, and the fourths. So the first one we see it's 1/2 and another half. The second one we see they're thirds. And the last one are in fourths. Let's move on. So this one, we're going to show 4 ways we can divide each of these circles into halves, in different ways. So we're going to start with the first one. Let's see how we can get this first one in halves. So we're going to go across. All right, let's find another way to put this one in half. So we're going to do vertical lines for this one. Okay. So now I think we're going to do diagonal lines for this one. So we're going to go diagonally. Okay. And this one, I think we're going to go to the other diagonal. So we're going to start on the other side. Okay. So clearly it shows that we can, break items into halves using different ways. All right. So this one clearly shows that we can put them in halves using different ways. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Show ways we can divide each shape into 3 equal shares. This one a little bit more complex, but we're going to see how we can get them into 3 equal parts. So let's try. So we're going to start with vertical lines. So we're going to come down. And then, okay. So the other one, we're going to see how we can cut them into thirds. So we're going to use horizontal lines. So that's one. And that's another one. Okay, so this one is divided into 3 portions. So as you can see, these rectangles can be divided differently given the same shares in different ways. So the first one we did vertical lines, and the other one we did horizontal lines, but they still show the same portion, thirds. Okay. Now let's take a look at the last slide. This time we're going to divide each shares into 4 equal parts. So let's go We're going to start with, as we usually start with, vertical lines. So we're going to divide this into halves first. Okay. And then we're going to share each half into halves again. That way we're a little bit more accurate. Very good. So this one shows that we have this one into 4 equal parts, or 1/4. We're going to do another way now. We're going to use this time maybe horizontal lines. We're going to start again, divide into halves first, and then we're going to divide each halves again into halves, so we can be a little bit more accurate. Okay, so boys and girls, I think in all today we learned that we can have, the same rectangle, but we can use different ways to divide them to get the same portion or the same share. So if you notice that the first one in fourths, it's divided using vertical lines. The second one is still in fourths, but it's divided this time using horizontal lines. But each of them shows 1/4 or fourths. I think we have come to the end of the lesson. You're going to continue practicing using your Google Forms to do the task card. Just practice what we have learned today. Thank you. Be safe.